And now,
it's 10 a.m.
let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson, thank you for making us a part of your day. How's it going over there, Ben?
Doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Yesterday was kind of fun.
Yeah, I thought yesterday was a fun day overall. If you are covering the Utah Jazz, I thought it was a real change in narrative from what we've been talking about for the last 3.5 years. And then even last night's game I thought was pretty enjoyable, and it felt like it flew by. Am I crazy? That game felt like it flew by. You kind of have a different sense of time sometimes just sitting in the studio.
No, it was a quicker game, even though there were quite a few fouls. It was honestly, it was one of those weird games where I don't know. The Pacers were so uninteresting. It was difficult to be like locked into the game, and then the big story, of course, is the trade and how that's going to work. And trust me, even though it was a road game, that building over there, the crew was just buzzing about it,
yep.
And so it was a tad distracting, to be honest with you. But then, as far as...
At least they announced it right before the game so you could talk about it.
The thing... no, actually, we did talk about it anyway, but we had to couch it with the reports and all that sort of stuff because it didn't, as Christian notified me on the Snap Talk, it didn't become official until, the second the show ended.
Yeah,
literally
tip-off.
right when the game tipped off.
Yeah, tip-off. Yeah.
When the pregame show ended. I will say this, though. It was easier to get focused on the game because all 7 Jazz players who played well.
Yes, they did.
There was not a player that had a bad game.
Now, as you mentioned, they were playing against the G League roster. Truthfully, that was a G League Pacers roster. Their best player was Jay Huff. He didn't have their best game, but he is their best rotation NBA player that was on the floor last night.
Jay Huff hasn't been the best player on a team since he was in, junior high?
Yeah, not even his senior year of high school.
No.
They were like, yeah, Jay's okay.
He's tall.
Jay's our third guy.
Tall.
Yeah.
Very tall. Yeah, so the Pacers, the Pacers were going to lose. The Jazz were going to win. I know the Jazz were down, 7 after the first quarter or something like that, but But they were playing Lauri, and, I know Keyonte wasn't playing, and a lot of Jazz players weren't playing, and the trade impacted it certainly, but all 7 of the Jazz players might be better players than all 9 of the players that played for the Pacers.
Agreed. Yeah, you're not kidding.
I don't know. Would you take Jay Huff over SVHT?
I generally like big guys, but in all honesty, maybe not, especially when you talk about Svi makes $1 million a year. Svi makes no money.
He's awesome. SVHT balled out.
No, Svi weirdly is going to be very important for the Utah Jazz for the next 2 or 3 years.
I'm telling you this, I should retire the SVHT nickname if I didn't like it so much because he's actually...
It no longer applies.
It really doesn't apply. And he's actually turned himself into a role player in the NBA. I mean, he guards to the best of his ability. He makes open shots. And he occasionally lets the air out of the ball dribbling, but I think somebody told him, dude, you're not good enough to dribble in the NBA.
And just shoot. We love to have you shoot. We hate to have you dribble.
Knock yourself out. Just don't dribble. And if you do dribble, keep it to an aggressive move to the hoop or something. Let's not.
Yeah, he makes $3.8 million next year, and the year after that's a team option for $4 million. The Jazz are suddenly going to be somewhat strapped financially. So having a rotation player who makes $4 million a year is going to catapult to the top of the value system for the Jazz, and Svi's good.
So other than that, we can dive into the game itself a little bit later on if we want to. But other than the 22 assists from Isaiah Collier, who went the distance, Tom Thibodeau style, I'm not sure how notable the game was, other than it was the Jazz 16th victory.
Yeah, wins will be somewhat paramount the rest of the way. We'll certainly keep a closer eye on them because the Jazz did just bring in 4 players who are more equipped to help you win than likely Walt Clayton or Taylor Hendricks were. Maybe even Kyle Anderson were able to help you that were outgoing in the trade. And then, of course, if you play Jaren Jackson Jr., he can help you win games. So the Jazz are going to do everything they can to make sure that they hold on to this pick. How they do that, I'm not sure. I don't know how much we're going to see Jaren Jackson Jr. or Lauri Markkanen or Keyonte George the rest of the way, but they are not going to sacrifice their pick because they traded for Jaren Jackson Jr. this year.
Can I tell you when? Let's switch to the trade because that is the lead, not a random win against the Pacers.
Yeah.
So listening to the analysis and seeing it on the Snap Talk and reaction and all this, can I tell you in typical fractured humorous what annoyed me?
Okay.
Jaren Jackson Jr. is not a big. He's not a big. His presence on the team does not affect Walker Kessler's because there's not overlap there. They play very different positions. Jaren Jackson Jr. is not a big. Now, if you want to tell me that his presence gives you the opportunity to switch all 5 positions, we can talk about that. If you want to tell me that he could be a small ball big for a brief period of time with the bench unit, okay, we can talk about that. But he is not a big. His game resembles. I was talking to somebody off the air, and I'm not talking about offensively. I'm talking about defensively, position-wise. He is more Andre Karolinko than he is Rudy Gobert.
Okay, yes. I will listen to that.
He is not a big. That's not the position he plays. There's a reason that Memphis draft the stiff of all stiffs, Zach Edey, to put next to him because he is not a big. And even if you want to look at his sheer rebounding numbers alone, he cannot be your big. Unless all of a sudden he becomes Dennis Rodman, which...
It's not going to happen. He's a bad rebounder.
It's not going to happen. So and maybe they keep Walker Kessler, maybe they don't. But the idea that this move makes Walker Kessler expendable, it was frustrating to me to see and hear people say that because that's not his position. And by the way, that's not the position you want him to play. You don't.
Right.
You want him to be a rangy 4 who shoots well enough to do that, who can switch on to everybody. And this is the key, Ben, because everybody reads blocks on the stat sheet. And this actually frustrated me with AK a little bit in a different way.
Okay.
But you misunderstand what that is. We see blocks on the stat sheet and we go, oh, Hakeem Olajuwon. And we go, oh, standing up Patrick Ewing and sending that shot into the third row. That's not how he blocks shots. He blocks shots much more like Andre Karolinko, where he's not going to block the shot of his guy.
Not as much.
He's going to block the shot of your guy, which is great, which is fine. But it is not stand at the rim and play defense. That's not the position you want him to play.
No, he's not a drop 5.
That's not who he is.
The way Walker Kessler is, yes. He's going to come out high, and then as soon as they set a screen, he says, well, I got to retreat to the paint because you're going to attack that, and then, yes, I'm going to stand you up. Now, he can do that some, but you're right. That is not going to be how the Jazz use him the most.
I think you pointed this out either on our show or somewhere else. I listened to you with Scotty. That think John Collins and Walker Kessler. Now, I'm not saying that Triple J is not better than John Collins. He's way better than John Collins. But think of that pairing and what John Collins became with, what was he been, 50, 40, 90 guy.
Yeah, nearly, yeah.
And really balling out the last time he was here. I think he used the term proof of concept, and I thought that was pretty on the nose. But it was driving me nuts. Like I'm seeing people on the Snap Talk like, hey, well, check out this lineup for the Jazz next year. You've got Jaren Jackson Jr. at the big, and then Lauri at the 4, and then Ace at the 3. And it's like, no, that's not his position. That's not how it's going to work. And Lauri Markkanen playing the 3 is the ideal position for Lauri Markkanen because he's huge. And if you want to look at a myth in the NBA is that Cleveland got better after trading for Donovan Mitchell. That is actually not that true. You could look at maybe the records are a little different. But do you remember when Cleveland was starting that huge front court and they were the surprise in the East?
Uh-huh.
What did they finish in the East the year before they traded for Donovan Mitchell? It was
right around 500.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'll have to look at it.
But I think they made the play-in and lost their first game.
But the idea that Lauri was playing 3 for that team made them really unique and really tough to match up against.
Offensively, yeah. It's really hard to match up against.
And defensively, the size that it brings is advantageous in and of itself. You don't get a break. You have to play against a 7-footer the whole dang game. So I got agitated with people even relating the discussion of Walker Kessler and Jaren Jackson Jr. They're not competing. They don't play the same position.
I Agree, and I want to say, when you say he's not a big, I want to say you're taking an extraordinarily modern approach, which is there is one big on the floor for most teams.
There's
meaning
one
guy
big-
who plays near the rim the entire game.
The Gasol Randolph thing is gone.
Yeah. Right.
It doesn't exist
The
anymore.
double big, one guy's on one side of the paint, the other guy's on the other, and they're just going to stay there the whole game. You're right. Totally dead. That's not a thing anymore.
Nope.
So, yes, in that sense, Walker is the Jazz's big, and it seems like he's going to be around. And then you're going to have, especially on the offensive side of the ball, perimeter players in Lauri, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ace Bailey, Keyonte George. Like, that's going to be your starting five.
Essentially, in the NBA anymore, you have one big, 3 wings, and 1 point guard.
Yes.
And I would argue that the 2-guard system is even going by the wayside, meaning you have 2 guards on the floor at the same time.
Yeah, you have a hybrid ball handler who's a wing, but it's not
Right.
traditionally Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell.
No,
You know, even Jeff Hornacek, John Stockton is too small for today's day and age.
that's not. So if you're expecting Walker to be expendable and all of a sudden Jaren Jackson is going to be the big, the 5 or whatever you want to describe it, that's not going to happen. In fact, that takes away the advantage of having someone who is 6'10" and athletic enough to be all over the floor. You don't want him standing next to the hoop. And by the way, if he is your big, he's a super skinny big.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden you negate the advantage there. So I was screaming at my Snap Talk screen about people even relating the two, unless you want to relate Walker and Jaren from now a salary standpoint. Now, how pinched are the Jazz for salary? How much can they afford to spend on Walker's position? Because Walker's position is an interesting one where it is, if going from Rudy to Walker has proven anything, it's that position is actually somewhat replaceable.
Yes. And in every draft, a new player like Walker comes in. It doesn't mean they're as good as Walker, but
Right.
there was a Ryan Kalkbrenner who just got drafted in the second round this past year, who does exactly what Walker does. You know, and he may not be as good as Walker. He's not as athletic as Walker, but can you get that guy for $5 million every 3 years on a draft pick versus paying Walker $25 million is going to become a real question for the Jazz.
So that is where it's related. It's related from a salary standpoint, and it's related to Keyonte George from a salary standpoint too, if you want to look at it. Although I think most people think Keyonte's more of a no-brainer than Walker, but it's still the same situation as now they have essentially 2 max guys, and that's going to suck up a ton of salary. So where does the rest of that salary go?
Yeah, where do you get your savings? Where's your bargain?
And for people, and I was thinking about this today on another matter actually, but people will spend other people's money so easily, you know, like, I was reading a quote from somebody about the Washington Post and how Jeff Bezos should just float them whatever they need to keep them going. And listen, this is somebody who values newspapers and journalism and wish all the success to those entities. But it's pretty easy just to say, oh, Bezos, you're worth $1 zillion. Why don't you just create the charity on this? And
Yeah.
like, it's pretty easy for someone else to say that. It's easy to spend someone else's money. And the point I'm making is you don't want to move into the luxury tax too soon. Well, first of all, repeater tax and all that stuff is very punitive. But second of all, like, you're probably budgeting, if I'm Ryan Smith, I'm probably budgeting some luxury tax in the future.
No
if
question.
I want to contend, then there are going to be a situation where I'm going to have to move into the luxury tax. That doesn't mean you have to be reckless about it and all of a sudden luxury tax out when you're a middle of the West team that needs another player.
And I don't care how much money it costs Ryan Smith in the slightest, but if you're looking just from how difficult it is to build a team after you cross the tax aprons, that's the hard part. Ryan,
Totally.
Ryan could just spend $500 million, go do it. If they were going to allow you to continue to have the same rules for team building, fine, spend $500 million. I don't care.
I know, but he does. That's my
He
point.
does.
I
He
don't
absolutely
blame
does.
him for being strategic about luxury tax,
No,
is
of
my
course.
point.
But
Because-
beyond that, it gets really hard to make trades. It gets really hard to
Right.
have certain assets to adjust your roster even beyond then. So even if you do want to say, well, I don't care, spend as much money as you can, actually it does change how well you can build your team. Like, very difficult.
See the last rendition of the Utah Jazz.
I mean, it's why the Memphis Grizzlies are blowing themselves up right now. I mean, it's exactly why they're doing this. It's why the Milwaukee Bucks are in purgatory. It's why the Phoenix Suns are in purgatory. So that is a part of it you do have to avoid, even if you don't care about his money. But no, you're right. It's an interesting approach the Jazz are taking. This is certainly not we found a top 5 player and that's what we're going to build around approach. That's not what the Jazz are doing. The Jazz are looking at the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker. They're looking at the Indiana Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam. And they're saying, we think with 2 top 30 players in Lauri Markkanen and now Jaren Jackson Jr., if Keyonte can jump into that conversation, or Ace Bailey jumps into that conversation, or A.J. DeBonsa, or Cam Boozer, or Darren Peterson, or whoever they end up in the draft this year, if they're lucky, they move up in the lottery. If one of those guys can move into that conversation, they think they will both have enough top-end talent, because it's still a talent-driven league. That's what yesterday screamed to me. They wanted talent, and Jaren Jackson has it in droves, and then a little bit of depth. Now, depth gets hard because you have 2 guys who are making max contracts, and Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr. That's it. You can't have more guys making max deals. You can only have 2 on your roster. That's basically the rule in the NBA right now. Once you get into 3, you end up with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and you're a disaster. I mean, in all honesty, unless they are just perfect NBA players and all fit well together, or not well, they fit exactly right together, you're going to put yourself in real trouble by having more than 2 max players on your contract or on your roster, because you just don't have any wiggle room beyond that. And the Jazz are going to have to avoid that. And they're going to have to find deals, and they're going to have to find young guys that break out and play above their wages. And that's going to be the gamble going forward. And it's not a small gamble. You're going to have to figure out if this works or not. And if it doesn't, you got to get to that next conversation of who do you keep, Lauri or Jaren or whatever. But that is the approach the Jazz have decided to take. And after 3.5 years of rebuilding, I don't think the lottery was showing it had produced a top 5 player on their roster. And so they decided to shift a little bit or, follow the other plan. They ran into a fork in the road. I don't think they had any interest in tanking again next year. I don't think the fan base would have stuck around as much as they have through the first 3.5. And so they decided now was the time to go. And it's not like they just spent their money on the first thing they saw at the store. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a very, very good fit for what this team needs. He's exactly the right type of player they need. Is it going to work? We don't know. But it's the type of player they need with the right timeline at a reasonable salary who fixes problems they have and still fits the rest of the roster.
Yeah, he's a great player.
Yeah, he's a really good player. Like, there's a real argument he's the Jazz's best player.
Well, absolutely, a very real one.
Yeah, I can't guarantee it. He might not be better than Lauri right now. He does play both ends of the floor in a way the Jazz have not had a 2-way big since ever.
Did you not listen to Jake at
Yeah,
all?
seriously. 2-way big. Karl Malone.
Yeah, right. You think I think he's a better defensive player than Karl Malone. I mean, he won Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, Karl Malone was a great defender.
Karl Malone was a good defensive player. He was not Defensive Player of the Year. Good. No, honestly, I think he's the best 2-way player the Jazz have ever had. Karl was a really good defensive player. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes when you become an all-star of that level, you start to get some love for being a better defensive player than you actually are. Jaren actually is like a truly disruptive defender at the rim that Karl never was.
I was with AK.
Karl was a way better player than Jaren Jackson Jr. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, 2-way.
The funny thing about AK's off-ball defense, which he was really, really good at, then all of a sudden people mistook him for a great on-ball defender, which he was not.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he was guarding Kobe at the end of games and getting torched, and Jerry Sloan in the postgame, I remember this, was like, you guys keep telling me he's a great defensive player.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
yeah,
he's great at coming out off the offside and making a huge athletic play.
Yeah, great weak side shot blocker. Game over. And I am really curious to see how that looks with Jaren and Walker. As Zach Edey's a good player, and he's very disruptive in the paint because he's so big. He's not as good of a rim protector as Walker is. How does Jaren now look as probably the second leading shot blocker on your team? At his best, he was better than Walker, but he's only averaging a block and a half a game this year. When he gets to come over and be the other defender, how does that change the defense? I think that'll be a fun thing to watch next year.
Mike Smith will be on with us to talk about it all coming up at 11:05. We've got What You Got Wednesday at 11:30. And I've got to tease this, Ben. I've been busy composing music.
Okay.
And I'm very happy about this one. I've gone a direction I have never gone before. I got out of my comfort zone a little bit. Let me put it that way.
Okay, and we have some crazy breaking news we got to talk about on the other side in the top 3 stories.
So that's coming up at 10:50, so I can finish my tease. Ben teases breaking news.
Wait, never mind. I'm
Which
going to
was
undo it.
fight,
This is the guy who I've blocked and unmuted, and then he made me laugh one time, so I unmuted him, but it's fake. So it's fake news.
So Ben just stepped on my tease for nothing.
But your music is coming.
Thank
no
you for
breaking
that.
news. We
Stay
don't
tuned.
have breaking news.
More next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Of course, we're teaming up with Beehive Meals, honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday to JJ and Alex for the winner. It's the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Time for the top 3 stories of the day. KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Christian, where do you want to start today?
Number 1, big trade for the Jazz yesterday. How should the Jazz use Jaren Jackson Jr.?
I think you were right on when you were talking about how he's not kind of your traditional big that I think a lot of people think of, especially when you see, a career average of over 2 blocks a game and having one defensive player of the year. I suspect offensively he's going to be a little bit stripped down. I mean, he averages close to 20 points a game for his career. I think you're going to see a lot of three-point shooting. I think that's going to be his role. I think he's going to be a big-time floor spacer next to Lauri Markkanen, and I think those two are going to feed off of each other, and that will open up driving lanes for Lauri. It'll open up lanes for Keyonte George, and when he's on the floor with Walker Kessler, which I think there's going to be some growing pains there, Walker will have more room to operate as a lob threat, pick-and-roll guy, etc.
I hope that the ball movement style continues. I expect that too. And if that's the case, I don't know if he is just stand in the corner and shoot threes guy.
No, I don't think. I don't think he's standing in the corner at all. I think he's up above the up above the free throw line.
I might be underutilizing him a bit. I think what Lauri's put into his game this year by the dribble drive, not the stand at the nail and create, but either shoot it or don't. And when you don't, you go directly to the basket, and you have the spacing to do so, in theory. I think has been a big part to his game. I don't understand, I would guess that Jaren Jackson Jr. could have some similar success. Again, if you're expecting a player that's just going to stand in there with his back to the basket, that's not who he is and not how it works. So he's taking 5 threes a game right now. I don't know how much up or down that really goes. That's a pretty good number for him.
That's a really great number. I'm not sure he can go way more than that. There is kind of a cap for some guys. But as a 35% career three-point shooter, it's exactly where he is this year. It's what he is for his career. The Jazz certainly won't be afraid of letting him do that.
I don't think the Jazz would be disappointed if he took a bite out of Lauri or Keyonte.
You don't think they would be disappointed?
No.
I think the key is going to be keeping them where they need to be offensively. Where they have been
I
this
don't
year.
think either Lauri or Key need to be 27 a night scores.
I think there's a real chance in the next few years Keyonte's up to 30 points a game. And I know that sounds like a really hot take, but that's what guards that do what Keyonte is doing, that's where they seem to get to.
Yeah, but those guards stink. So I hope he doesn't go that way, because then he's playing like James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, and I know we're going to get to that, and I don't think that's winning basketball. So I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think that Will Hardy hopes that happens. He's not the best player on the team. Why would you want him to score 30 points a game?
I think that's a fine argument. I do think when you look at what Tyrese Maxey is doing this year for the Philadelphia 76ers, that is kind of where the league is trending. Shea's doing the same thing. We are much more in a spot where guards score huge numbers. You have one player who scores huge numbers. Maybe it ends up being Lauri, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe everyone drops back down to 23, 24 points a game, and Jaren does take a little bit of a bite out of that. I would be curious if the Jazz let that happen. I suspect if somebody's going to have to sacrifice offense, it's going to be Jaren. But I could be wrong.
If you were to ask Will Hardy if he could have 3 players scoring 23 points a game, he'd tell you absolutely
Surely.
yes.
Yeah, we'll take it.
And I think that's how they want to play. I think they want to spread it out and move it around. I don't think they want to gum it up with, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't know if they want Keyonte as a 30-point high-usage guy.
And he may not need to now with Jaren. Now you have a legitimate third scorer. The Jazz do not have, prior to the trade yesterday, the Jazz didn't have a legitimate number 3 scorer. Every once in a while, Bryce Sensabaugh would step up and score 20. I think he had it last night. John Collins last year was able to do it a little bit, or Colin Sexton was able to do it a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be Lauri, it's going to be Keyonte, and if Jaren can do it and justify doing it with a lot of touches and it doesn't hurt the offense, I'm sure they'll let him.
Who's next, or what's next?
Number 2, Donovan Mitchell is a new best friend in Cleveland.
Speaking of a guy who will no longer average 30 points a game, Donovan Mitchell, who has been right up around that number, is going to see a big chunk taken out of his offense because you can't move James Harden off the ball. James Harden is an on-the-ball scorer and distributor and is a system unto his own.
It's so funny what unintelligent franchises do because they feel backed into a corner or whatever. This falls right into the problem of ball-dominant guards. Who do you put next to him? Who do you put next to? Who's the perfect player to put next to Luka? Somebody that doesn't.
Somebody who never touches the ball.
So doesn't like playing basketball.
Yeah.
So it's funny to me that, and we've talked about this for years. The Cleveland thing never made sense to us, and I don't mean to speak for you. Feel free to disagree, but that the Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, there was a ton of overlap there. So if 2 of your 3 best players, arguably, are going to be basically the same player, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Speaking of James Harden, it didn't make sense when they tried to pair him with Rusty or Chris Paul or any of these other players that don't want to stand there and watch him play basketball. So the solution to the overlap, which is their problem, is to trade for somebody that overlaps even more.
More so.
Okay, here's our problem. Let's trade for an even bigger but the same problem. What are you doing? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He's going to take a bite out of Donovan, and you know what? Donovan's going to take a bite out of him too. Because Donovan's not the type of person who's going to take it laying down. We saw Donovan demand the ball in the fourth quarter every single game, even though he really sucked at it. I don't expect that to change. This move makes so no sense at all. It's got to be clutch generated. There's got to be something else.
I told you, LeBron's trying to get back to Cleveland.
James Harden didn't even fat his way out of the Clippers. He just randomly one day was like, yeah, I don't want to be here. Even though the team is totally on the come.
I'm leaving and Cleveland's okay with me coming to their team. And that's just going to be the deal. And everyone was like,
wait, what?
Okay, you're just like on the plane by yourself? You flew there? You bought your own ticket?
Did you see people on Twitter ranking James Harden's exits? Like fatting his way out of Houston.
Yeah.
Another popular one is telling the Chinese kids that Daryl Morey is a liar and he's never going to play for him again.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, incredible.
Well, what it is, and you've said this a lot, and you're exactly right, is it's desperation from Cleveland. And it's the desperation the Jazz were looking to avoid with Donovan Mitchell if they got to this point with him. Now, Cleveland has probably gotten more out of Donovan than I expected. They haven't gone farther in the playoffs than I expected. They're still only a second-round exit team. And I don't think they're done before tomorrow's trade deadline because this team, as is not closer to winning a title than they were before they added James Harden. James Harden does not win in the playoffs. He's never won in the playoffs. He's a good regular season player. You didn't just trade for James Harden for 30 games, though. You know, you are trying to open up stuff next season.
They're going to extend him.
They're going to give him an extension, which is
crazy,
insane at this point. But it's desperate, and that's what desperate teams do. I do love that last year the big conversation about Donovan Mitchell was that he was doing less, and they were getting more because he was finally doing less, and that lasted 71 games,
10 minutes.
And then this year he's back to 28.8 points a game.
Because that's his reaction to falling short in the playoffs. Like, well, if it's going to be about me, it's going to be all about me. You know, I guess I don't blame him in a weird way, except for he's just not good enough to do that. Well, he's not good enough to play that way. And you know what? Neither is James Harden. Right. Even at his peak, he was not good enough to play that way.
Donovan's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player. He has had one flaw. Well, he's had a couple of flaws. But his main flaw is he is a point guard that continues to play shooting guard throughout his career. Over and over and over. And James Harden is not an off-the-ball player. So who is playing shooting guard in that rotation now? It's going to be Donovan Mitchell. He is off the ball, and he is too little, and he's bad defensively. And who's one of the worst defensive guards in NBA history? James Harden. I don't. And I get it. Look, Darius Garland, that wasn't going to work out. It wasn't going anywhere. He's always hurt now. There's some real issues with Darius Garland. I get why the Cavs did it today. What I don't get is why 2 years ago, when Darius Garland was coming off of an all-star game, were they not shopping him to get the big wing that everybody has always known Donovan Mitchell needs next to him? I don't understand that. You said it in the first segment. What is the NBA now? 1 guard, 3 wings, 1 big. That's it. It's really not hard to draw up a basketball team. And they stuck to 2 undersized point guards for years, wasting the prime of Donovan Mitchell's run in Cleveland. It's just raw mismanagement. It's so bizarre. They tried to fix it with DeAndre Hunter, who's not a very good player. It's really bad, and now they painted themselves in this corner, and I won't be surprised at all if they are very, very, very seriously talking about trading Donovan Mitchell this summer.
What's next?
Number 3, the Mammoth play their last game before the Olympic break tonight.
3 weeks off after tonight as they get ready to head to Italy, or 4 of the players get ready to head to Italy, but they will host the Detroit Red Wings tonight.
Do you think some of these lunatic hockey players are going to go back to their homes where it's even colder than it is here?
Yeah.
Whereas like NBA players seem to go
The warmest spot.
Warmest spot that they could find.
Yeah, a lot of these guys go back to Canada.
Yeah, you're
Sure.
right. I mean, Scotty G was just in Canada. I'm sure he can tell you how the weather is.
Yeah,
I feel bad for him in a way.
I'm sure some dudes are like, finally, back to Pittsburgh.
I mean,
Couldn't wait.
Salt Lake's been quite pleasant this winter.
55 every day.
Going back up to Minneapolis or whatever, where I wonder, we'd have to look where the most, what am I looking for?
Vancouver.
Clustered home
Toronto,
of
Vancouver.
Mammoth players are.
Mammoth? Probably is still like Toronto. It's probably Toronto.
I mean, somebody's probably flying back to Russia.
Yeah.
It's cold. I guess the hockey players are just built differently.
That's how they're built.
They look at people that go to like Fiji and they're like, softies. It is crazy though. 3 weeks is a long time in the world of professional sports.
That's a true.
It's like another off season.
It's not an off season, but yeah, it's right there. I mean, that's a training camp, and you're not playing the whole time. I mean, these guys will find a way to stay in shape, but I'm sure the Mammoth have a big, plan for all these guys on how to stay on the ice and how much practice time you need to be getting. And some of them are just going to be playing in the Olympics, 4 of them, like I said. But yeah, it's a crazy toll.
Not to be Debbie Downer, but they're kind of on a roll. I mean, they got to figure out a way to keep it going through 3 weeks. That's an eternity.
I do think the nice thing is they started the season relatively well. They got into that 7-game or 8-game win streak pretty early in the year, so you hope they have the ability to restart quickly.
All right, Ben. I've got a musical project that's coming up next. I'm very excited about it. It might be my favorite one that I've done, although, new kid kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Sure,
it's
yeah,
always
right.
Your the thing you just finished is your favorite, so
Yeah.
maybe it falls flat. But I think it's pretty good.
I'm excited to hear
And
that.
also might be part of an overall bigger project.
Okay.
All right. Stay tuned. We've got that coming up next. Mike Smith at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. What you got Wednesday at 11:30 is Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson
1, 2, 3, move it.
on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is a Wednesday. That means it's a Win Ticket Wednesday. Be caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE, and we're going to hook you up with a pair of tickets to go see comedian Brian Regan at Delta Center on Saturday, February 14th. Little Valentine's Day at Delta Center, 801-575-ZONE, caller number 12 right now. All right, Ben, I have created a new song. Now, I think this could really be a part of a new project because
Okay.
I'm thinking of making a musical. And you know me, I like musicals.
Yeah.
I attend a lot of musicals.
Yep.
And I'm going to tackle maybe writing a musical. So I just started with a song, and you can tell me if it's worth maybe the
Pursuing.
bigger project. I have run into a bump in the road, however, because the musical is about Bob Costas, and Bob's people will not let me use his name.
Okay.
And I already wrote the song, and we put it together, and we used his name, and so we had to bleep it out. You're going to hear a bleep. But
You're
Bob's-
bleeping out Bob Costas'
No,
name.
just Costas.
Okay.
Because we can use Bob, that's generic enough, but we can't use Bob Costas. Because he wanted to charge us like honestly, Ben, like 6 figures to
Big
do
shot
this.
Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just rewrite the name,
Okay.
even though it's obviously based on him.
So just to re-rack quickly, you've written a musical about someone similar to Bob Costas,
Correct.
and this is the
the song that I've come up with. I haven't
this
put
is your
together
Defying Gravity.
Right.
Okay.
I haven't put together other songs or really a plot or anything, but I feel like if there's anybody that warrants a musical in the sports industry, it's probably Bob Costas.
Okay.
And the Winter Olympics are starting this week on KSL Channel 5, which is awesome. And Bob is back in the news because he did some NBA on NBC stuff, and he's doing their Sunday Night Baseball stuff.
Yes, he is.
So Bob is still working.
Okay.
Not a surprise. So without further ado, and this is a little long, but we got a little carried away, and I thought it was all pretty good. But here is the song, Bob Will Never Blink.
Okay.
Good evening, folks. I'm Bob, your trusted face at primetime play. I've covered wars and weather scares. I've done it all in office chairs. From curling stones to slalom slopes. From speed skate dreams to illusion hopes. But tonight there's one small oversight. My eyes look like a horror sight. Doc says, Bob, you gotta rest. You're contagious, this is not your best. But the redder they glow in this studio light, the more I know I'm staying on tonight. I will not take the night off. I will not even blink. Both my eyes are screaming, but ratings never sink. I'll stare through all this shit till the closing credits roll. If courage had a cornea, it'd be in my swollen soul. I will not take the night off. This anchor's on a roll.
All right, now we move into the second verse.
Sure. Yeah.
They've taped my lids in matching gauze. The makeup team applied applause. The interns gag, the crew recoils. They Lysol spray my pens and coils. The producer pleads, we've called a sub. He's handsome, healthy, scrub-a-dub. But who will hype the bobsled run if Blinky Bob's not having fun? The steers fly, the torches blaze. The ice dancers earn perfect praise. How could I leave this frosty fight for chamomile and candlelight? I will not take the night off. I will not leave this chair. My pupils look like cherries. I still refuse to care. I'll narrate every medal through this burning itchy haze. If Stubborn had a slogan, it would loop for days and days. I will not take the night off. This is my finest phase.
All right, into the bridge.
Yes, I'm pink. Yes, I'm puffy. Yes, I'm tearing on cue. But the world needs a recap of that last biathlon view. Give me drops, give me tissues, give me one more headline tease. I'll ad-lib through this epidemic between these epic sneezes. Achoo! I will not take the night off. I'll squint and soldier through. If both eyes close completely, I'll just read my feel for you. From ski jump to the podium, I'll describe each frosted frame. If dedication had a mascot,
Dedicated.
it would answer to my name. I will not take the night off.
Big finish.
I will not take the night off. This pink-eyed pro will never blink.
That's it.
I don't know if to give you a Tony or tell you don't get to come back tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know what. Nobody else could do that.
I know.
Yeah, that's a you thing exclusively.
I thought it had some really great lines on
Great
it, honestly.
lines.
Yeah.
I mean, which is, that's the case for musicals. You got to have some great writing in there.
Is that harder to write with one arm?
Yeah, I had
Or
to
do you
do.
do text
I
to
had
speech?
to do dictating. I had to.
Anything specifically? Any lines jump out
But
to you?
tonight, there's one small oversight. My eyes look like a horror site.
Yeah, that's good. I know exactly what the song's going to be about as soon as it starts. Pins and cones.
Doctor says, Bob, you got to rest. You're contagious. This is not your best. But the redder the glow in the studio light, the more I know I'm staying on tonight. I will not take the night off. I know Tarico's standing in the wings, but tell him to stick it.
Yeah, Tarico, who's ready to take over.
He's ready to
and
go.
is going to be the star the next time.
Not if Bob has anything to say
Yeah.
about it.
Well, Bob knew it was coming.
Yeah, he's not going to take the night off.
You're right. I think it's your best. I think it's your best work.
I will not take the night off. I will not even blink. Both my eyes are screaming, but ratings never sink.
This is our fellow NBC affiliate. Shout out, Bob.
Shout out Bob, still working.
We'll see if we are.
He's still working.
See if we are.
But you can picture it in the musical, right? I mean, like they're coming to Bob and his
Yeah.
eyes are pink and they're like, Bob, you got to stop. And then he breaks into
The
this
lights
whole thing.
drop down all
Yeah.
around him. He's in the spotlight.
Bingo.
All the producers and cameramen are singing backups.
The interns are sanitizing everything. I thought that was pretty funny.
I love it.
All right.
We got a hit.
This week, the world is watching, speaking of the Olympics and, of course, the big game. You could be watching on your brand new 75-inch smart TV. The KSL Sports Zone wants you front and center for every unforgettable moment. Enter to win at kslsports.com/contest. And for additional entries, listen all day for keywords to be announced in each show. The more entries you have, the better chance you have to win. Today's keyword for our show, very appropriate, Ben. Mm-hmm. Curling.
Okay. Curling.
Curling.
Not curly.
Curling. Listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day, today, tomorrow, and Friday to hear more keywords. Let's go now to the curling ice. I'm Bob Costas. Oh, I
Pink
just
Abdel.
used his name.
Yeah,
Used
right.
his name. I'm going to be in trouble.
Big trouble.
We had to call his lawyer. Very hard to get to.
I bet.
Yeah. All right, stay tuned. More next. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.